All right, so today we're going to be talking about job searching. Job searching, just like interviews, is another important component to going into the workforce. And there's definitely a lot of different ways that you can do that. Networking is one of them, as well as looking up some online through different search engines, which is what we're going to be discussing more of today. So today is going to be a relatively shorter video. But the plan is we're going to be talking about a couple tips that you guys can do to prepare for some job searching, and then looking at different search engines such as Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, as well as some different organizations such as the Hawaii DOH and federal jobs that you guys can look into if you are interested in going into that sort of job in the future. So to wrap your head around job searching, I want you guys to think about where you guys have looked up jobs or internships or volunteer opportunities in the past. Was it by simply Googling something, or perhaps a class provided some opportunities for you? So think about this and we'll get started. So some main components before you start Googling or job searching is to think of a couple keywords and phrases that describes what you are looking for. So this could be a job title in particular, like program manager or researcher or intern or community organizer, if you know for sure the actual job title. This also could be general terms, and these general terms can kind of be related to the topic, such as health communication or public health, epidemiology, to help you kind of see what other jobs are there in that field. Another, if you are specifically interested in an organization such as the DOH or a particular nonprofit, you can just look up that organization's name through different search engines, or you can go onto their websites. Most of these organizations, especially more established and bigger organizations, will have a careers section that you can kind of explore the different places where they're hiring at this time, at the point in time you are searching. So before you get started, it's always good to have at least some kind of idea of what you're looking for, so you're not going into a job search blindly. So there are a couple things to have ready when you are going into a job searching rabbit hole, if you will. One of these is your resume or your CV. So it's always really great to have your updated version as well as a PDF or Word document. Sometimes when you're going, depending on the search engine, which we'll get into in a little bit, you will have opportunities to upload your resume. And so you want to make sure that it is relevant to the job that you are applying for and up to date with the most current information about your experiences and about yourself. This also goes for a cover letter. So a cover letter is something that you would want to more personalize. You don't want necessarily a generalized cover letter, but this is more for when you are ready to apply for the job. So having different PDF versions of both of those documents is always great to have at the ready. Depending on the position, you might be asked to create a writing sample or provide one that you have done in the past. For example, if you're looking into a researcher position, they might ask you to upload a past project, or if you're looking into something that you might do some presentations, some past presentations. So some kind of sample of your work. It depends on the job that you're applying for. Obviously, if you are applying for something more digitally, they might ask for something such as a website or social media platform that you have worked on. So having a good idea and having almost like a portfolio of these different work samples at your ready makes it job searching just a lot easier and go a lot smoother. All right, so getting kind of into the different search engines that you can start exploring, I would argue that Indeed is probably the most utilized engine at this point in time specifically for job searching. So this is, again, where you have your keywords and your key phrases. that will help you search for the different jobs that you are looking for. It also allows you to put in a location. So whether that's a city or a state or even a zip code, you can create a profile on Indeed and upload your resume to make it a little bit easier on yourself when you're applying for jobs. There's also a apply now button that again allows you to upload your cover letter, upload your resume. However, there's one thing that I do want to give you guys a heads up on is with Indeed, depending on the job that you're applying for, they may ask you for more than just your resume or your cover letter, but they might also provide some questions during the application. So for example, if you're applying for a position that you would be managing some sort of office or managing some sort of group, they might ask you a question, almost like a quiz question, where they provide a lot of people's schedules and tell you person A and person B need to meet 3 times this week. Here is their schedules. What is the best times for them to meet? So it's kind of testing your ability to organize and schedule and be kind of in that manager role. So that's very common with Indeed. They also ask some situation questions. So we talked a little bit about situation questions on interviewing. This is kind of very similar where they might ask you a sort of situation question that I might have come up or might be pertinent to the job that you are applying for, and then seeing how you would best handle. And nowadays, when you start to apply for Indeed, you might just get the simple resume and cover letter and submit, but depending on the job, they might ask you a couple of these extra things too. So just be prepared for that when you are looking at Indeed. So this is something that you might see if you are exploring Indeed. So you'll see the different job positions off to the side, as well as a brief, maybe bullet point or two of what it is, as well as the location and as well as the organization. So if you look on something like this customer service representative, there's an apply on the company site. That's also very common. They might have an apply now on the Indeed site, whether the organization has that agreement with Indeed or not. But basically it gives you the job description. Sometimes they give you a salary, sometimes they don't. So they might just ask you to look for that information on the company site, but this is kind of what you would be seeing when you use Indeed. LinkedIn is another way that you guys can look up some jobs. We talked about LinkedIn and having a up-to-date profile and the importance of doing that because, again, they are going to stalk your profile before they talk to you in an interview. So LinkedIn and having it used fairly regularly is important, but it's also a tool to search different jobs and organizations. There is a job section that you can look up the key terms that we discussed earlier, as well as locations similar to Indeed. For LinkedIn, there are a couple of things that you would want to have ready: your cover letter, your resume, and you might be asked about some extra questions. Again, very similar to Indeed, but Indeed is more specific to job searching, whereas LinkedIn has that networking component as well. So here's a snapshot of what you might see if you're utilizing LinkedIn for some job searching. Again, it has your jobs off to the side there with maybe a little brief description or two of what that's going to entail. And then when you click on it, you can see a more detailed job description as well as some ratings. So the job might have some ratings of people who have done the job in the past, as well as for LinkedIn, you see how many employees are on LinkedIn, that you can also kind of do a little bit of deep dive and sleuthing, and you can look into these employees' profiles with LinkedIn. So you kind of have that extra, again, opportunity to network with them, but you can also just use it as a job searching tool, very similar to Indeed. Another search engine that you guys can utilize is Glassdoor. Very similar to all the other ones, you'll have your keywords and your location, as well as buttons that allow you to apply now or apply on the career site. The difference is you are going to need a profile to start utilizing Glassdoor, so that's something to be aware of. Indeed, you do not need a profile. You can just start using Indeed right away. LinkedIn, you will have your profile because hopefully you guys already have one created and are using it for some networking. I will be totally honest, I personally have never used Glassdoor. I am much more of an Indeed or LinkedIn person, but it's another tool for you guys to explore for job searching. So here's a quick snapshot of what you might see when using Glassdoor. You have your jobs on the side as well as the job description. When you click on it with a little bit of a description and reviews that other people have done who have been in the position before or in a similar job position. And then you have your apply on the career site. So very similar to Indeed, very similar to LinkedIn. What's kind of cool is you can see these different reviews to help you make your decision when you are searching for the job. So here are a couple more job searching engines that you guys can look into, but they're all there to kind of basically do the same thing, provide you with some way to look up some jobs using those key terms and phrases that you have already prepared and the locations that you would like to do this job in. Monster used to be a very popular one, as well as ZipRecruiter. I have personally never used either of these. But again, these are just resources for you guys to explore. Perhaps you like them better than Indeed or Glassdoor. So something to look into. If you're at all interested in looking into applying for the Department of Health, this is a link that you guys can easily see all the careers and all the jobs that are listed within the DOH. They are going to be quite extensive because there are quite a lot of careers and jobs that are usually available when it comes to working for the county or the government. This is where you might apply and do an interview and not hear back for a couple months, as we discussed in class. So here's a quick link that you guys can look at if you're at all interested in applying for the Department of Health. Here's a link that you guys can look into if you are interested in looking for more federal positions for the mainland perhaps, or within Hawaii, depending on the location of the job. So if you're looking into federal positions, this is definitely the link that you would get started. All right, wrapping up today, we have a couple key takeaways. One is to know some key terms. So come prepared. Don't just dive down the rabbit hole of job searching, kind of have a good idea of where you would like to start, whether that's the job or an organization in particular. Try your best to have a resume and cover letter up to date and ready to go, especially if you're going to apply. So if you're just searching, that's no big deal. But if you are ready to start applying, you want to have those ready to go. And honestly, when it comes to job searching, it's just kind of doing it. You got to do it. That's why you have all these different search engines that will help you. You can find the one that you prefer and which one you like. It's always good to have maybe one or two, actually more than just one. You want to have at least two, maybe three, because some organizations will put the job on one and not the other. So if you, for example, utilize Indeed quite a bit, that's definitely my go-to. So if you use Indeed and also maybe LinkedIn, you might find some jobs that are on Indeed, but not on LinkedIn or vice versa. So definitely have maybe at least two or three that you kind of check more regularly. And then if I could give you guys one piece of advice is you don't want to wait until after graduation to start job searching. You definitely want to do that networking and you want to do those interviews and you want to do those applications at least 2 to 3 months before you start graduating, because it can be quite a process to get hired on as an employee. So get started now, get started sooner rather than later. And then when it comes around to about graduation time in May, you might want to start actually applying in March, for example. So just go out there and start kind of becoming comfortable with job searching. And that's the best way that you guys can do this.